another story that OCCRP put out late into the night is targeting Vedanta, and some serious allegations, of course, coming in by the way of mining business, their exploratory oil business, and how they may have flouted some environmental regulations in the process, in fact lobbied hard with the government and flouted the environmental rules.
Right. If the accusations or the allegations over the Adani group is about stock manipulation through offshore tax havens, that was the clear ambit within which Adani was under the line of fire. As far as Vedanta is concerned, it's very clear the allegations are all about how Vedanta muscled its way, be it its mining business, which is comes under the Vedanta group, or its oil exploratory business, the Indian arm of the oil exploratory business, which is called Cain India. So the OCCRP report essentially says that the Anil Agarwal-led Vedanta group lobbied hard. It was called a covert lobbying operation. In fact, that report also goes on to talk about a particular letter written by Mr. Anil Agarwal to the then Environment Minister, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, asking for clearances in the mining business, environmental clearances for when you expand capacity in the mining business, Shweta, you're supposed to get new environmental clearances from the government, whereas Vedanta wanted to expand their capacity by up to 50% without having to take the trouble of getting fresh environmental clearances. The OCCRP report alleges that in 2021 itself, Anil Agarwal wrote a letter to the then Environment Minister asking for a waiver on this entire clause which exists in India, where if a mining company wants to expand its output, it has to get new environmental clearances. And promptly so, next year, by the year 2022 rolled around, there was government regulation in place which allows mining companies to expand output without fresh governmental clearances. There was a moderation, there was a change in the environmental policy norms for mining companies that the OCCRP report alleges was initiated by Anil Agarwal, chairman of the Vedanta group, through the then Environment Minister, Mr. Prakash Javadekar. So these are very serious allegations. They're naming people. They're talking about a particular letter that was written in April 2021, and they also detail the timeline of ever since that letter was written, what was the timeline, how all things changed to the point where eventually Vedanta Group got exactly what it wanted. It wanted to expand capacity, it didn't want to get new environmental clearances, and that's what they got by a change in the policy initiated by their own chairman. That is as far as the mining business is concerned. And you move over to the oil exploratory business. Now, oil exploratory business is of Vedanta in India is done by a company called Cain India. And Cain India also got clearances from the government for oil exploration, fresh oil exploration drilling in blocks it won on government auction. So, be it oil exploration or mining, norms were altered, modified through lobbying by Vedanta Group. That's what the OCCRP report says.
What also stood out for me is that all of this was done under the garb of COVID-19. So there is a pandemic-like situation. Let mining companies flourish. At least that's the allegation coming in by the way of that letter. And the production capacity will go up as much as 50% if we do not get fresh regulations, or if you pave way for no more fresh regulations. So essentially ensuring that under the garb of COVID-19, environmental regulations are scooted around with, but also I think public consultation as a process, and in fact I was explaining this to one of our colleagues in the newsroom this morning, why public consultation is important, because mining essentially impact society and community at large, which is where you've got to talk to them, you've got to get them on board before you start mining in a certain area, because it impacts not just the environment but indigenous societies. And mining is not done in metro cities, it's done in rural, remote locations where it impacts flora and fauna of that particular place. So hence the need for public consultation, hence the need to talk to people around, get them on board before you start that process. And that again was done away with.
Completely done away with. Public consultation was a matter of, as you rightly pointing out, it was mandatory, it was compulsory for any mining company to hold public consultations, and that was because that was mandated by law, by policy. And here is the deal. In any of this, Vedanta doesn't come out as having done anything wrong, because they didn't flout any law, they just went and changed the regulation. So here is where the problem, the OCCRP report is so damning, because net, what is Vedanta will turn around and say we didn't break any law, we didn't change, we didn't supersede any norm. We just went ahead.
We just asked government.
We asked the government. The government changed it for us, and
so
that is
it's
big.
as much an allegation against Vedanta as it is
As it is
against government of India.
Exactly.
There's a union minister, a former union minister,
Prakash
former
Javadekar.
environment minister, Prakash Javadekar, named in this report. But incidentally, stocks of Vedanta in green this morning, up almost 1.25% when we last checked. So the markets are not taking any negativity around the OCCRP naming, shaming Vedanta in this case.